Blood turned against blood. Family shattered in an instant. The Usos just did the unthinkable and betrayed Roman Reigns, joining forces with his greatest enemies to bring down the tribal chief. The bloodline as we know it is dead, and nothing in WWE will ever be the same. What's up, wrestling vs. family? Welcome back to the channel, and if you're watching this, you already know we just witnessed one of the most shocking betrayals in WWE history. The foundation of the bloodline just crumbled, and the shockwaves are going to be felt for years to come. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell because we're about to break down the moment that changed everything. The Usos, Jey and Jimmy, Roman Reigns' own cousins, his day ones, his family, just turned their backs on the tribal chief and aligned with his enemies to take him down. This isn't just a storyline. This is the culmination of years of tension, manipulation, and family drama. Let's break down what happened, why it happened, and what comes next in this explosive saga. To understand why this betrayal is so devastating, we need to talk about what the bloodline was and what it represented. The bloodline wasn't just a faction. It was family. Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, and Solo Sikoa united under one banner with one purpose: to acknowledge Roman as the tribal chief and dominate WWE together as the most powerful force the company had ever seen. And they succeeded. For years, the bloodline was unstoppable. Roman held the championship for over 1,300 days. The Usos became the longest reigning tag team champions in WWE history. They beat everyone. They conquered everything. They were the standard by which all other factions were measured. But underneath all that success was a foundation built on control, manipulation, and fear. Roman didn't just lead the bloodline. He ruled it with an iron fist. He demanded loyalty. He demanded acknowledgement. He demanded that everyone fall in line and do exactly what he said, when he said it, without question. For Jey and Jimmy, that meant sacrificing their own identities, their own desires, their own voices. They became extensions of Roman's will rather than their own men. They won championships, yes, but always in service to the tribal chief, never for themselves. We saw the cracks forming over time. We saw Jey's internal struggle, his moments of doubt, his questioning whether this was really what family was supposed to be. We saw Jimmy trying to keep the peace, trying to hold everything together even as the pressure mounted. We saw the manipulation, the guilt trips, the emotional abuse disguised as family loyalty. Roman used the concept of family not to unite them, but to control them. And eventually, every person being controlled reaches a breaking point. For the Usos, that breaking point just arrived in the most explosive way possible. So what actually went down? Let's break down the betrayal moment by moment. Roman Reigns was in a confrontation with his enemies. The exact composition of this opposing force doesn't matter as much as what they represented: a united front against the tribal chief's tyranny. Multiple superstars who'd been victims of the bloodline's dominance, all coming together with one goal: end Roman's reign. Roman stood tall as he always does, confident that his family would have his back. He looked to the Usos, expecting them to stand beside him as they always had. Expecting loyalty. Expecting obedience. Expecting them to acknowledge him and fight for him without question. But something was different. Jey and Jimmy exchanged a look. A look that said everything. A look that communicated years of frustration, resentment, and suppressed anger. A look that said, "It's time." Instead of standing with Roman, they stood back. They didn't move to defend him. They didn't rush to his aid. They just watched as his enemies surrounded him. Roman's face showed confusion, then anger, then something we rarely see from the tribal chief: fear. Not fear of his enemies, but fear of what was about to happen. Fear of the betrayal he could see coming but couldn't stop. And then it happened. Jey and Jimmy didn't just refuse to help Roman. They actively joined his enemies. They made it clear through their actions and their words that they were done being controlled. Done being manipulated. Done sacrificing themselves for someone who saw them as soldiers rather than family. The beatdown that followed was brutal. Roman, isolated and outnumbered, took punishment from the very people he'd tormented for so long. And the Usos, rather than stopping it, participated in it. Every superkick they delivered to Roman was a release of years of pent-up frustration. Every move was a declaration of independence. When the dust settled, Roman Reigns lay broken in the ring. Not just physically, but emotionally. Betrayed by his own blood. Abandoned by the family he'd built everything around. Jay grabbed a microphone, and what he said next will echo through WWE history. He looked down at Roman and said something to the effect of, "We're done acknowledging you. We acknowledge ourselves now." That one statement represented the end of an era and the beginning of something entirely new. So why did the Usos turn on Roman? What finally pushed them over the edge? The simplest answer is, they'd had enough. Years of being treated as subordinates rather than equals. Years of Roman taking credit for their accomplishments. Years of being expected to sacrifice everything while Roman sat on his throne and demanded acknowledgement. But there's more to it than just frustration. There's the realization that Roman's version of family was toxic. Real family doesn't manipulate. Real family doesn't guilt trip you into obedience. Real family doesn't make you choose between your own identity and their approval. The Usos spent years watching Roman abuse the concept of family loyalty to maintain control. They watched him manipulate Jay emotionally, threatening to kick him out of the family if he didn't comply. They watched him treat Solo Sikoa as just another soldier to command. They realized that Roman didn't love them as family. He loved what they could do for him. They were tools, weapons in his arsenal, not brothers or cousins deserving of respect and autonomy. The final straw likely came from seeing Roman's enemies unite. Seeing other superstars find strength in genuine partnership rather than domination. Seeing that there was another way, a better way, to operate in WWE. The opposition offered them something Roman never did: equality. Respect. The chance to be their own men while still being part of something bigger than themselves. That's a powerful temptation. And after years under Roman's thumb, it was irresistible. There's also a strategic element. The Usos are smart. They recognized that Roman's reign couldn't last forever. They saw that the tides were turning against him. And they made the calculated decision to be on the winning side rather than going down with a sinking ship. By joining Roman's enemies, they positioned themselves not as traitors, but as liberators. They're not the bad guys in this story. Roman is. They're the ones who finally found the courage to stand up to a tyrant. Let's talk about what this means for everyone involved, starting with Roman Reigns. Roman has lost everything. His family betrayed him. His empire crumbled. His aura of invincibility shattered. For a man whose entire identity was built on being the tribal chief, on being acknowledged, on having his family by his side, this is a complete ego death. This forces Roman to evolve or die. He can't just be the same character anymore. The bloodline is gone. The protection is gone. He's alone for the first time in years. The question is, how does Roman respond? Does he become even more vicious, more desperate, more willing to do anything to regain control? Does he try to rebuild with new family members? Does he go on a path of revenge against the Usos? Or does this betrayal force him to look in the mirror and realize that he created this situation? That his manipulation and control drove away the people who should have been closest to him? Either path creates compelling storytelling. Roman as a wounded animal lashing out could be terrifying. Roman as someone forced to confront his own failures could be equally fascinating. For the Usos, this is liberation. For the first time in years, they get to be themselves. They get to operate on their own terms. They get to show what they're capable of when they're not just following orders. This opens up incredible possibilities for their characters. They can cut promos explaining their decision, detailing years of frustration and emotional abuse. They can have matches where they prove they're just as dominant without Roman as they were with him. They can become faces, heroes who stood up to a tyrant. Or they can become a different kind of heel, one that operates through genuine partnership rather than manipulation. The partnership with Roman's former enemies creates new dynamics and new storylines. How do these alliances work? Is there trust, or just a common enemy? What happens when Roman is defeated? Do these alliances hold, or do they fracture? For Solo Sikoa, this is equally significant. He's the one family member who didn't betray Roman. Does he stay loyal? Does he question his own position? Does he become Roman's only remaining soldier, or does he eventually follow the Usos' path? Solo's journey from here could be the most interesting of all, caught between loyalty to the tribal chief and the example his cousins just set. Here's what WWE needs to do with this storyline. First, give it time to breathe. This isn't something you resolve in one match or one segment. This is a fundamental shift that should reshape WWE programming for months. Show Roman isolated, struggling to deal with the betrayal. Show him trying to recruit new members or going it alone. Show the psychological impact of losing everything he built. Give the Usos multiple opportunities to explain themselves. Let them cut promos detailing every grievance, every moment of manipulation, every time Roman made them choose between their dignity and their family. Build toward an ultimate confrontation. Maybe a tag match where Roman has to find partners against the Usos. Maybe a series of singles matches. Maybe even a War Games match where the two sides collide in the most brutal environment possible. The emotional stakes should always be at the forefront. This isn't just about winning and losing. This is about family, betrayal, redemption, and whether relationships shattered this badly can ever be repaired. And eventually, years down the line, there could be a reconciliation. But it would need to be earned. Roman would need to genuinely change. The Usos would need to see real growth, real remorse, real acknowledgement that they were right to leave. That kind of long-term storytelling creates investment that lasts for years. The Usos' betrayal of Roman Reigns is more than a shocking moment. It's the end of the bloodline era and the beginning of something entirely new. It's a story about family, control, liberation, and the courage it takes to stand up to someone you love when they become someone you can't follow anymore. Roman Reigns must now face the consequences of his actions. The Usos must prove they can thrive without the tribal chief. And WWE has one of the most compelling storylines in years to develop. This is the kind of moment we'll be talking about for decades. The night the bloodline died. The night blood turned against blood. The night the Usos chose freedom over family, or perhaps more accurately, chose what real family should be over what Roman had twisted it into. Alright, wrestling vs. family, this is huge. Do you support the Usos' decision to betray Roman? Was this justified, or did they go too far? What should Roman do next? Can this family ever be repaired? Drop all your thoughts in the comments below. If this breakdown got you hyped, smash that like button. Subscribe to Wrestling vs. CC and turn on notifications because we'll be covering every twist and turn of this incredible story as it develops. Share this video with your wrestling friends who need to see this analysis. Let's discuss the biggest betrayal in modern WWE history together. This has been Wrestling vs. CC. Until next time, keep watching, keep debating, and keep acknowledging great storytelling when you see it. We'll see you in the next one.